Adding a new addition to the Wellness Journey podcast series, we present Loving the Natural You. As we travel through life, our mind, body, and spirit go through a multitude of changes. And without taking time to learn about these changes, you might feel lost, insecure, and unhappy. It's time to establish peace with those transitional periods we experience in midlife. It's time to focus on ways to honor your temple and locate your inner joy. Join me, Lennis Woods Mullins, on Wellness Journey podcast series as we talk with a new group of forward-thinking experts who can provide insight and help us develop another level of self-awareness through loving the natural you. Hi, and welcome to the Wellness Journey podcast series. It's wonderful to have you here, and I'm so excited to be talking about something that's near and dear to my heart, and that is loving the natural you. All of the interviews in this series of Loving the Natural You has everything to do about learning to love yourself right now in this present moment in time as you are, and then maybe building from there, but really approaching whatever improvement you might want to do in your life through the idea that you already are loving yourself and accepting yourself as you are. Today we have with us someone who I truly admire, and I am so proud to be able to call my friend, Dr. Catherine Kelly. PhD, MSPH. She is a licensed psychologist in her own psychotherapy and consulting practice in Winston-Salem, North Carolina. She has over 25 years of direct clinical experience, and she doesn't just believe in helping others to heal. Instead, her mission is to help them evolve. She uses her own integrated framework, the self-help model. We've talked about that many times on previous podcasts, and she's even written for my magazine and talked about this soul health model, which is, I feel, so essential into understanding how all this mind, body, spirit connection actually works. She provides a uniquely progressive and get down to earth approach to healing and is well known in both the therapeutic and medical communities. She thrives as she helps clients to reach what she calls a conscious evolution. And she just recently launched a brand new line of essential oils, Soul Health Essentials, and is releasing a new book, Recipe for Radiance, Mastering the Art of Soul of Self-Care. And thank you so much for being here. It's wonderful to have you here, Dr. Kelly. I'm really excited about all the new things that you're doing right now.
Yeah, and Lennis, it's great. It's always great to be on your show. You're so much fun, and we are aligned very closely with what our missions are in life. So I'm really excited to be here again.
Well, thank you. So first of all, I wanted to talk about how you came to write this book. I think it's such a wonderful compliment to your previous books. But the other thing is that it's only 114 pages, but in those 114 pages, it is full of wisdom. What made you decide to add this to your wonderful anthology of work that you've been doing?
Well, and I have my little proof copy right here because
I love it. There's the tree.
One thing. Yeah, and I actually want to point this out because my first book is about my soul health model, which is a holistic health model that really, the branches of the tree right here, this is my proof copy, so there's this lovely band across there. But the branches all talk about the 10 key branches of the human condition that all of us struggle with, and all of us are trying to constantly understand and balance.
Right.
And the soul part of us, I consider as the trunk, you'll see the little hands that are sustaining. To me, the soul is the essence of who we are. It is that unique part of us that nobody else on this planet can ever claim. But it's also, especially for women, it is that whole process of evolution of trying to figure out who you are within those 10 branches and really trying to thrive and evolve beyond our old stuff. So the reason that I created this particular book, The Recipe for Radiance, and I don't know how closely you can see it. I'm going to flip it over because you can see it better on this side. There's a little chef's hat that I put onto the soul health model. Because years ago, and probably a lot of your listeners will understand this, we are terrible at taking care of ourselves. We are terrible at even knowing where to start. Yeah. And so years ago, I started using this metaphor with clients and workshop participants about creating a recipe for your life that is very similar to how chefs are taught to create actual recipes when they're in culinary school.
I love that.
It's really a fun, lighthearted book for a very serious and important reason. So, I have all these fun graphics in here and exercises in here. But because life is so difficult to learn how to balance, I wanted to keep the book brief. So you said 114 pages. There's nothing worse than someone wanting to know about self-care and then having a 400-page book to have to read to get there. So I did not want it to be.
I have a few of those books.
Yeah, exactly. And I'm the same way. It's like, no, if I want to learn how to take care of myself, I'm probably not going to study something like a textbook. So I wanted this to be very lighthearted and very kind of just, okay, how are chefs taught? And you have to figure out primary ingredients, which are your meat and potatoes of your life, the things that really sustain you. And then secondly, what I call the broth of life, the more fluid kinds of things that we have to have just kind of even in the background or just kind of as part of, pulling things together. And then the spices of our life, the flavorings, the unique things that really flavor our own souls. And it's actually a very quick and beautiful and easy metaphor. And to my knowledge, nobody's come up with this. So I
No,
believe
I love the metaphor, and it's easy to relate to, especially women.
it.
I mean,
Yeah,
not all women cook, but most of us are fairly familiar with the whole idea
right.
of cooking and what goes into it. So
Yeah,
it's easy to begin to understand that actually the epitome of soul health is all about the flow,
absolutely.
learning how to get that flow going. And
Yeah,
you had an epiphany when it came to your own self-care, and I was wondering, because it's at the very beginning of the book, but if you can
yeah,
share it, because it's interesting. My listeners know, too, that I used to suffer from an anxiety disorder, and it took me years to figure out that one of the things that I needed to do with anxiety is to learn to lean into it. And then for me personally, get moving, doing things. And so when
right.
I read that piece, I was like, oh, that's so true. If someone had told me that, like, 12, 13 years ago, you need to go run around the block, maybe things would have gone differently. But my
Right.
journey actually brought me to where I am now. So I'm grateful for the journey. But what was your journey? How did you begin to realize that that was important?
Yeah, and actually, I'm going to bring in a whole big concept of the book right before I tell this story. But to me, self-care is soul care. So if we are learning to take care of ourselves, we are really taking care of our souls because we have to be very specific to who we are in order to really thrive. And so, the story, and there are lots of personal stories throughout this book because I think it makes it more relatable.
Yeah.
And I laugh because, this is a book on self-care, and yet I have been burning the candle lately with all these different projects and things I'm coming up with. And they're all beautiful things, but I'm still having to practice my own self-care and my own recipe. So way back when I was 25 years old, I and this is huge. I was 25 years old. I had just gotten married. I had just started my doctoral program. I had just moved into a new home with my husband. I had a family member who had just had some very serious mental health problems occur. Of course, I was the one that was called on since I was in the psychology program. I was living 1,200 miles away at the time, so juggling that. All of these changes, all of this stuff happening. And I just remembered, sitting on my couch trying to study one night, and my brain was not latching on to any of the information in that book. And I had an exam the next day. And it was one of those things where I was just going over it and over and over and thinking, I have got to do something to change this. I've got to do something. I was feeling so stirred up with all the stressors at the time. And unlike me, I mean, I was an exerciser, but I did not like exercising in the evening. But so unlike me, I thought the only thing I can think of that would break this fever, break this discomfort is to actually go work out. And so at about 7:15, 7:30 that night, I got my gym clothes on. I ran to the school gym. And my thing was, I usually at the time was on a Stairmaster for about 15, 20 minutes. And then I would get on a treadmill and walk. I am not a runner. My body is not a running body. But I did the Stairmaster and I'm realizing, okay, that is not doing it. That's not enough. So when I got on the treadmill, I was walking and I'm thinking, oh gosh, this is not working. This is not enough. So I actually cranked it up into a run. And again, I'm not much of a runner. I do a little bit more running now than I did then. But I was running, just trying to burn that discomfort off. And it was about 5 to 7 minutes into the run where I almost literally felt this little valve release where I could feel the energy just go, shh.
Mm.
And I'm running going, whoa, okay, I didn't know that's what was going to happen, but somehow I knew I needed to exercise so that I could learn that that would happen.
Mm.
So I ran for about 5, 7 more minutes, did a cool down, went home, sat down back down on the couch, and I was able to study, get through those chapters, got a good night's sleep, woke up the next day, took the test. I was just fine. And that was the day when I realized that for me, that exercise was going to be or needed to be one of my main ingredients of my life. I had always been pretty active. I played sports in high school and in college, and yet I didn't realize that I needed that particular ingredient in my life as much as I did that particular day. So then during grad school, and this is all kind of laid out in the book, I realized, wait, if that is a staple, then what are the other core staples? And most recipes have about 5 to 7 core ingredients in them. And so I actually, at the time, I came up with 5 different ingredients at the time that I knew if I did those on a fairly regular basis, it would feed my soul and balance my soul enough to keep me going in the human condition. So I had used that 5 ingredients for decades, really, of my own. And then when I started doing more and more presentations over the last 5 to 7 years and talking to more and more clients, I realized that I needed to apply that to my client life as well. And so I have used this metaphor for years, but it wasn't until my book coach last year said, because I sent her a companion guide to a webinar. I also have a webinar that is
Oh,
about
okay.
the
Yeah,
recipe
that's right.
for Radiance. But I sent her the companion guide, and she said, you need to write a book on this. She said, this is brilliant. You've got to do this because people don't have that recipe. They don't have that instruction. So that's really kind of the progression of where this came from. And I'm so kind of excited to bring this out into the world because it's such a fun concept and it's so relatable.
It's
So
very
it's very fun.
relatable. And,
Yeah.
I think that most women or people who might read it, they'll see something that resonates, but they're going to get some aha moments also.
Oh, yeah.
That they're like, wow, why didn't I ever think of it that way before?
Yeah.
It's in their awareness, but it just hasn't been honed in the same way. And
Right.
that's one of the wonderful things about the book. And the other thing I love is how you've broken down the book. You've got, several different chapters in here that all follow that same kind of recipe, if you will, of what a
Yeah.
chef might be thinking about, the kinds of things that go into the making of a meal, or in this case, the making of a life. What are
Yeah.
some of those chapters, and what are some of the key things that you talk about in some of those chapters?
Well, and another fun part of this, and you'll read this throughout the book, is that I love cooking. I mean, all the way back and to the time I could barely stand, I was in the kitchen on a chair with my mom cooking. So I've got all these stories of my 4-H cooking classes when I was in the 3rd and 4th grade, and I've just got lots of fun stories. But I literally, when I decided to write this webinar and write this book, I looked up how in culinary school chefs are taught to create recipes. And so that is really how I created each chapter. So, you have the envisioning the perfect meal, meaning, okay, what do I want my self-care to look like? How do I want that to be experienced? And one of the things I do is I walk people through sort of the visualization in the book to help them go, oh, that's what radiance would feel like to me. So I have them envision that, and then I have them start looking through their own lives as far as the key ingredients, which is the second part of that recipe. Have them talk about time and temperature. In other words, we all have in a recipe, if you don't have the time and temperature, you're not going to be able to bake or cook anything. So I have people metaphorically go through their lives thinking about, okay, how much time do I really have to give to a certain kind of self-care? What do I need in order to feel balanced? How do I need to adjust that according to where my life is? And so it's a very user-friendly kind of approach because, again, most people can relate to cooking of some sort. Even if it's a grilled cheese sandwich, you still have to have some specific elements involved. So
Yeah, and
It's
I like that. It's very practical because it
yeah,
really does give you a cause for some self-introspection, but the kind of thing that's not overwhelming. Like one of my favorite chapters is the key ingredients for a radiant life,
yeah,
because I like the very first quote that's in it when you open the chapter. It says, "When you recover or discover something that nourishes your soul and brings joy, care enough about yourself to make room for it in your life."
yeah,
Oh, and that was a quote by Jean Bolin. And
yeah.
I'm telling you, that is so key.
Suffering from chronic pain, sleeplessness, or maybe unnecessary weight gain? CBD oil, which is derived from the hemp plant, could possibly help. Take a look at these array of products that really do address different needs of the mind, body, and spirit. CBD oil. Just go to myctfo.me/wellnesswoman for more information about this fantastic product. In the spirit of strength and sisterhood, we present an inspiring piece of literature, Power Up Superwomen, Stories of Courage and Empowerment. Standing as a collaborative effort between authors from around the globe, this book seeks to drive passion, purpose, and power, featuring a lineup of groundbreaking women, and myself, Linus Woods Mullins. Power Up Superwomen, Stories of Courage and Empowerment speaks our narratives of overcoming illness, diversity, depression, climbing the corporate ladder, and much more. Rise with us as we celebrate women taking initiative and letting our voices be heard. Purchase Power Up Superwoman, Stories of Courage and Empowerment today on bit.ly Power Up Superwoman. Remember, it's never too late to live a powerful, well, and inspired life now.
Many times we know what it is that brings us joy, that we feel good about, that makes us feel good about ourselves or good about our lives. But for some reason, it's almost like a form of self-sabotage. That's the very thing that we don't always make time for.
Right. Yeah, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Linus. And I think that's why, I know I'm speaking to the choir with you, but soul care is so important. As human beings, we have such complicated lives in many ways, but it's not all that hard to feed our souls if we give ourselves the opportunity and allow ourselves to actually do it. And so that's again why I've kept this so simple is, it does not take very long to feed a person's soul. I have a client right now who works for one of the major banks that's here. And we just literally about 6 weeks ago, it was announced that that bank and another local bank system are merging. And of course, all of this fear gets raised because when there's a merger, there's going to be layoffs. And so this person's already stressed out about it. And he's struggling with some of those things. But I said, your assignment, and this was 2 sessions ago, I said, your assignment is to 5 minutes a day, go sit somewhere and just breathe. And he kind of looked at me and I said, you trust me because you're not going to know how much that feeds you until you actually do it. And he came in the next session. He said, I cannot believe how much just that 5 minutes rebalances me and shifts my perspective and helps me think differently. And so 5 minutes a day, is not that long, but why is it that we don't commit to our souls? And, in my other book, I use the word stewardship to our souls. And the same concept applies here is that if you are not willing to do 5 minutes a day of self-care, well, then you need to kind of
What's going on?
evaluate
Yeah.
that.
Well, the way I always look at it when I'm talking to my clients when it comes to just overall wellness for women who are over 40, is that if you don't start putting your own self-care first, you're not going to be able to continue to be there the way you were maybe raising
Right.
your kids because you're getting older, you're getting burned out. And many times for women who are getting older and maybe they have grandchildren now, or maybe the husband's retired, or maybe now they're beginning to move towards retirement, you're thinking, okay, now I'll have more time to do the things I've always wanted to do. But the reality is that when that happens, you're almost sometimes, and I'm speaking from experience, almost at a loss in terms of what to do or how to start this new self-care, because for years and years and years, you've been putting yourself on the back burner so much of
Right.
the time. When I take a look at the five things that you basically are your soulful stables, I think to myself, gosh, this is something that everybody should be doing, with maybe a twinking here and there, and there's such obvious things, but
Yeah.
things that we have a tendency to take for granted and not do, thinking, oh, I'll do that later. And then
Yeah.
later never comes.
Yeah.
About the good sleep and the rest and the time, taking out time to read and taking out time in nature and spending time doing a spiritual activity you talk about, even things like spending time with your dogs or pets or whatever that thing is
Hmm.
that makes you you. For me, and we have a dog that passed away in September, and we haven't
Oh,
replaced him yet. We're going to, but I kind of picked up the art of coloring, adult
nice.
coloring.
Yeah.
Yes,
Yeah.
which really brings me a great bit of joy. And that weekly hot salt bath, when I
Yep.
don't take my bath like that, I begin to get chinks in my armor. Literally, my
Yep.
back starts to tense up, my neck starts to tense up, and
Yep.
all these things. And I'm beginning to wonder, why am I getting these aches and pains? And I'm thinking, oh, it's because I'm getting older. It's like, no, I
Yeah.
haven't done my self-care the way I need to. So it's an integral part. But how do we begin? It's one thing to list it, okay? But it's
Right.
another thing to actually implement it. How do we begin to make sure that we put this in our awareness, that we make sure we do those five things?
Yeah, and what's interesting is, and I'm going to go back to listing it. You have to explore why a person is not even listing it, because the thing is, there's so many things that we're taught that women, oh my gosh, it's selfish to take care of yourself first, or oh wow, that's just luxurious rather than necessary. And so we have to kind of break that down to ask ourselves, why are we not identifying these things?
Exactly.
As a psychologist, I tell it was psychologist and a soul strategist. I I go deep with clients. I make sure that they're going to that depth of themselves to figure it out, because what generally happens is that as soon as they start identifying those things,
Hmm.
then they're more motivated to actually do them anyway. And it's interesting because they start to break through some barriers of the hesitancy, or it's easy to say, well, I don't know what I do to take care of myself. It is harder to actually identify. So as far as some easy, quick things, and I go through this in the book in several different places, is, you have to be realistic. So if you only have 5 minutes, but like this person that works for the bank, if you know that 5 minutes, or have discovered that 5 minutes goes a long way, go find your 5 minutes, schedule it into your day. I literally schedule my exercise every week. I look ahead to see what the weather's going to be like. So I know, and I'm kind of a weather geek. I do this. I know what the whole week is going to look like weather-wise, so I can time, do I go to the gym or do I walk my dogs? Do I go walk the greenway? Do I, go for a hike? I think ahead, but it takes me maybe 30 seconds to, probably not even that, to look on my phone to see what the extended forecast is.
Hmm.
So, it's one of those things where you have to just break it down and get it into habit. Um, Later in the book, one of the things that I suggest is that you literally schedule like 5 to 20 minutes into your week every week just to plan your self care for the week.
Mm.
And I have a client who has a picture of the soul health model taped up in her laundry room, because every weekend when she's doing laundry, she's folding towels or clothes or whatever, and she's glancing at that, planning her week as far as self care. So you don't have to sit down and only do that. It's something you can do when you're walking, when you're driving a car, when you're doing the dishes, in the shower. So we make self care and soul care much harder than it has to be. And so I really try to, again, simplify it and bring it into something that's very, I call it very breathable. We breathe regularly, and we just have to create self-care and soul care as a breathable kind of activity.
That's interesting too, because I think sometimes whenever we're trying to make that kind of lifestyle change, and we've got all these great ideas of things we want to do, instead of doing it incrementally,
Oh yeah.
small bites at a time, we've got this big list of things we're going to do, and maybe we do that for a while, but almost inevitably you begin to fall off. I know, because I've done this myself. You
Oh
begin to
yeah,
fall
we all
off on
have.
it, and next thing
Yeah.
you know, you haven't made that change.
Hmm.
And I think that finding that one thing that really resonates with you,
Yeah.
that you want to put on that self-care priority, is the first way to start. That one thing, and then over time maybe two things or three things, or just that one thing that really makes you feel more whole,
Yeah.
brings you a sense of joy, brings you a sense of clarity,
Yeah.
maybe even energizes you or relaxes you. Just that one thing, whatever it is, just
Yeah.
putting that on your plate is part of one of your ingredients. And I feel like once you start to do that, you say, boy, this feels good. What
Yeah.
else can I do?
Yeah. Well, and the other beautiful thing, Linus, is that, these aren't separate, or these aren't necessarily separate activities, and I mentioned this in the book. It's like, if you think about a soup, if you eat a carrot and you eat a potato and you eat something else separately, it's not a soup, it's not blended, but there are things that you can do that blend together that really kind of help feed you. And, one great example is that, my five top primary ingredients all the way since grad school were physical exercise, reading something that has nothing to do with work. And for me, it's usually travel magazines or cooking magazines,
Mm-hmm.
something spiritual, something in nature, and then decent rest. I am someone who needs some pretty decent sleep.
Mm-hmm.
And so the thing is, I can put three of these together where I'm getting some exercise by walking outside. I'm around nature because I live surrounded by trees.
Mm-hmm.
And then also, to me, that is spiritual. When I am out walking in nature, that right there is spiritual. And then to add another one, I usually walk my dogs. So I can do
Yeah, four
four of my
things.
key
That's
things, which is a
interesting. You
recipe in
know,
itself.
that's interesting because I do that. I've been doing that for years without even realizing it.
Yeah,
But that's a great way. If you have these things, this model that you're trying to adhere to, and you see all the different components, many times you can get all those components together.
blended.
Like, for instance, I just got through walking while listening to Wayne Dyer, looking
Perfect.
at nature at the same time. And I enjoy going to the grocery store in the organic food section. I was on my way to the grocery store. I walked to the
Yeah,
grocery store and going to the food section. I love looking at whatever is in season and seeing what
yeah,
I can find that I can prepare later on for that day, fresh vegetables or something like that. And at the time, I wasn't thinking about, the different models, but you're right. There are ways that you can incorporate them in such
yeah,
a way.
blend.
Right, it's a blend, and you're
Yeah,
not feeling like, "Oh, I don't have time to do this," but this is what you normally do. Maybe
yeah,
you might wanna add 1 or 2 things, in my case, it's adding my newest audiobook with Wayne Dyer that I'm listening to.
yeah.
Maybe for you, it's, adding that favorite bit of music, that you wanna
Mhm.
listen to or whatever, or raising your vibration by listening to binaural beats or something like that.
Yeah,
It's amazing because many times we come up with all the reasons why we can't do something. If
right,
not consciously, subconsciously, you got that script running in the background. Well, you got
right.
this. But instead, I challenge everybody, and I think you would agree, is to come up with reasons why you can do this.
Right. Right. And and why you wouldn't. I challenge people, why wouldn't you do this for yourself? Why would you put yourself off? Why would you postpone yourself versus
Right.
postponing something else? One of the I told a client this morning. One of the probably best things my mom ever taught me was that the dust can wait, because she loved working in the yard. And with five kids, she probably needed to get away from us at times.
Mhm.
And so she would say, no, the dust is going to wait. I'm going to go work in the yard. And it was, she, I probably would say that she wasn't fantastic at taking care of herself. And some of that is in the book as well. But on the other hand, for things like that, she knew when she needed some time out. And, that's actually something else I want to stress is that, yes, I think there's times when we need to add something fluid to our lives, like music or like a podcast or like something that's in the background while we're doing something else. But I also want to stress the fact that I think silence is underrated. We do not have enough silence in our world. And, I call a lot of the stuff that's around us soul static, because, a lot of the people who come to me as clients or workshop participants want to know their soul. They want to hear that inner voice. They want to get that wisdom that's already in them, but they can't access it. And it's because there's too much going on in their world and they're not able to give themselves permission to get quiet. And so sometimes for me, I would say oftentimes for me, it's the silence that feeds me. So, sometimes walking in nature alone where there's not another soul, it's the silence. I just knocked over an essential oil. Um, uh, it's the silence that feeds me. And, after a long day, my Wednesdays, I have 9 clients. So I hear a lot of words. I hear a lot of words. And so by the end of Wednesday, I'm kind of like, okay, I need some quiet.
Yes.
So we have to realize that we can interchange some of these things on a day-to-day or even moment-to-moment basis, depending on what it is that we need. So I think we get too locked into what we think we, quote, should do for soul care.
Mm-hmm.
But we've got to have more of that just moment-to-moment awareness of what your soul is asking for at that given time. It's like a craving. It's what is your soul craving right now? So
Yeah, it's interesting because actually just being silent is even different than doing meditation.
yeah.
Meditation is a conscious effort. You're, trying to go within or visualizing something or listening to a gong or maybe repeating a mantra or affirmations in scripture, whatever. Whereas silence is just being.
Yes.
And one of my favorite things to try to paint that picture is saying that, we really are, in many cases, humans that are doing. We're always
Mm-hmm.
doing something all the time.
Right.
But actually, we are to be human beings,
Yeah.
meaning that we're just being
Yeah.
and letting that be enough. And I have been practicing that just recently over the last year. And
Nice.
it's interesting the results that come. First of
Oh,
all, when I first started it, I couldn't even do it for 5 minutes because I had to do something. I felt
right.
guilty, like I'm sitting here, I should be doing this, or
Or
but
fidgety.
yeah, yeah. But after a while, I began to look forward to it. Now it's very easy, and it's interesting because sometimes my husband will walk by my office, my door is open, and I'm just sitting there. He's like, "You okay?" Yeah, I'm just being
Yeah.
silent. Yeah.
Yeah. And I think that's why, again, number one, I do think that we don't make time for self-care. We kind of make excuses that we don't know what to do to take care of ourselves. And part three, we avoid it. It's almost like that, that quiet. And what's interesting is I've had more and more clients lately because I talk a lot about cleaning out in order to fill up. You've got to clean out a lot of the human condition muck and junk in order to fill up. And that's, to me, what therapy is all about, is helping them clean up their lives enough to hear their souls. And I've had more and more people say that they're starting to hear themselves. They're starting to gain that wisdom and hear that wisdom. And I call it the sweet spot of the soul. It's like when you can tune into that sweet spot, you can hear very quickly what it is that, I'm sorry, my phone's ringing over here.
That's okay, no problem.
You can tune in very quickly to what it is that you need. You can understand what you
Right,
need. And
right.
so there's, it's a simple concept, but it's a complex follow through because people put up so many obstacles to their soul care. And, that's why I tried to make this book so brief and kind of fun and lighthearted and full of stories, just so, again, they realize it doesn't have to be some, major undertaking, and it's
Right.
very simple. So it's a
Yeah, I
beautiful.
think for women that, the majority of my listening audience is women, over 40. And for some reason, or for all the reasons that we can think of, women around that age and moving forward really start going through that whole introspection period.
Mhm.
What next? Maybe why am I here? What am I doing now? What am I going to do now that I've reached this stage of my life? What is it that I want to do when I grow up? And I think Recipe for Radiance truly is a guide to achieve and get you to those answers. And I would highly recommend anyone who's in that searching phase to get this book. And I know it's going to be coming out soon. By the time we air this broadcast, it will be out. So where's the best place for them to get Recipe for Radiance?
Yeah. So a couple things. If you want to, of course, it's going to be on Amazon.com. So all you have to do is type in Recipe for Radiance, Catherine Kelly, and it'll go straight to me. And that will be, it's launching on May 2nd. So anybody who is listening to this after is going to be able to have all of that. And it comes in Kindle version. Of course, it's going to be soft cover. In the long run, it will be hardcover. We're still working on that. You can also come to my website, which is www.drcatherinetkelly.com, and go to the books tab. There's actually a tab right on that homepage that will take you to the books tab. And so many more things to come. And so if people are interested, they can sign up for my newsletter. I have a webinar that I do that is actually called The Recipe for Radiance, and it's a 90-minute webinar, and I teach people a little bit beyond what the book does about how to really work this into your life and overcome some of the roadblocks So that is available too. If you'd like to be on my newsletter list and my email list, you'll get all that information. And I've got a lot more coming. I've got online classes coming. I've got workshops and speaking gigs that are getting set up. And so this is a really fun and exciting time.
That's great. And for all of you who are interested in finding out more about Dr. Kelly and the things that she's working on, all having to do with self-health, we have put down there all of her social media information as well as the website. If you go to the website, that will lead you directly to her social media, her books, and I know you're launching a new line of oils, Soul Health
Yeah.
Essentials. I'm really
Yeah.
excited about that. Tell us a little bit about that.
Yeah, it's such a labor of love. I have used oils for years. I can't even remember how many years ago I started. And it was interesting because early last year of 2018, it started to hit me. It's like I've been doing some form of therapy work for 31 years, which is really kind of amazing to think about. But
Wow.
I know the human condition. I know what people struggle through, both because of my own stuff, but listening to thousands of clients and workshop participants. So early last year, it started to stir in me that, I could probably come up with some really powerful essential oils to match what people are going through within each one of those branches of the human condition that I talked about on my model. And so that started really gearing up for me. And the first line of the oils that I launched in January is called the Ascension line.
Mhm.
And the Ascension line is very much aligned with the soul part of my soul health model. So you have oils called soul centered. So that oil is all about getting you very focused and grounded so that you can move forward. You can envision your life. I have one that's called V.I.B.E, which is it's really about when you're going through a lot, you're processing a lot, you're trying to figure out what's going on in your life, but you also need a little nudge to get through. All of the oils that I have used in that one they blend well together, but they get you through those tough times. I have one that's called Soul Soother that is very calming. I sent one of those to my book coach recently because she's had so much going on, and I sent her one. She's like, oh my gosh, this is fabulous. So in this line, I have 11 oils, and they're all very soul-based. So I have one that's called Divine Wisdom. I have one that's called Karma Clear, when you're trying to let go of stuff. I have a Manifesting Magic, and that one is about when you're really trying to envision what you want, take some action for what you want, and then learn how to receive what you want.
Wow.
So I've got,
I like
again,
that one.
yeah,
I haven't spelled it, but I already like it.
I just had a person buy that one for me today as a client. And so we have sprays, we have the roller balls, which I'll show you because these are little prides of joy. They have my little tree on them, my logo. They're called Soul Health Essentials. And we just got the full website up a few days ago, and it's beautiful. So you're going to find the roller balls. We do have diffuser oils. We have room sprays or linen sprays. And then we also have lava bead bracelets that you can put the oils on. And what I did with these bracelets, they're so fun. I'm also a gem person. I love gemstones, healing gems. And so I researched and I matched the stones that I used on each one of the bracelets that matches the oil. So I have one particular bracelet that goes with Soul Centered, and one that goes with Soul Soother, and one that goes with Manifesting Magic. So you don't have to buy them and use them together, but you get kind of a double effect when you do that.
This is all right up my alley. I love this stuff. That's why I'm so excited. Now, if they go to your website, they'll lead them to also where the oils are and the jewelry.
Yes, you have two options for that. If you go to my main website, excuse me, the www.drkatherinetkelley.com, you'll look at the top and there is a store. You can hit that. It'll take you to the Essential Oils website. There's also a picture a little bit lower down on that you can click and it'll head you over. Or you can just type in soulhealthessentials.com and it'll take you right to that brand new website. And again, it's beautiful. We have a lot of work to do because I actually have 8 different lines that I am creating. One is for healthcare providers, one is for grief and hospice, one is for teachers and educators. I have one that is basically for corporate health. So I have 8 different lines that are in the works. I have one that actually is coming out in June that there's 10 oils in this, and it's called Workplace Wellness.
Wow, I love
So it's
that.
all
And workplace
about
wellness, let me guess, that's for wellness on the workplace, right?
and corporate health and leadership issues and how to push through corporate change. And so, because again, I worked in corporations, I do consulting in corporations, but I know what happens in corporations. So
Mhm.
it's been so fun to create these oils because you're not going to find these oils in Whole Foods.
No,
These are
I've not heard anything like this at all in terms
Mm,
of how much you cover and
yeah,
all the different kinds of choices that people will
yeah.
be able to have. I think that's just fabulous. So I have all the links there on the show page. So for those of you who happen to be listening to this broadcast and you aren't actually seeing the broadcast, you need to come back to the show page. And of course, that we are the Wellness Journey podcast series on the Self Discovery Media Network. And just go ahead and click on all of those links, her social media, her actual website, and the essential oil website as well. And really, I just think it's fantastic. It goes so well with everything that you do. And you're such a gift to the world. Thank you so much, Dr.
Oh, thank
Kelly,
you.
for all.
Thank you. And I'm so glad to know you too. You've been such a gift to me as well.
Thank you. And thank you to all of you who have been listening. If you just tuned in, you want to make sure you go back because I know we're not doing live, but some people, they listen and then they stop and they come back. You want to definitely listen to the whole broadcast. But if you take nothing else away from it than this, you've got to go to her website. This woman is phenomenal when it comes to healing of the soul, which is so important and something that we don't talk enough about. And she's a licensed psychologist who's dealing with the spiritual realm piece of what it takes to be well for all of us in our minds, body, and spirit. Once again, that's drcatherineTkelly.com, and that will lead you to all of her social media, her wonderful products, and her book. Thank you so much for being on the
Thank,
Wellness Journey podcast series.
thank you.
And thank you to all of you to listening. I'm so glad all of you out there in YouTube land and Twitter world and Instagram and my Wellness Woman 40 and Beyond group. I'm so glad that you've taken the time to listen and come back again so we can talk more about how to be well in your mind, body, and spirit. My name is Linus Woods Mullins, and I'll see you again next time.
Thank you so much for tuning in. If you have something to share, please comment below. For more Wellness Journey shows, be sure to click the subscribe button below and check out my Facebook group, Wellness Woman 40 and Beyond. Continue taking this journey with us as we explore ways to be well in our mind, body, and spirit while loving the natural you.